Hey everybody, welcome to the Bible reading plan. Today we're in John chapter 13, and this is an amazing chapter. We see the Last Supper happens in this chapter, and as we go into it, the part that's very specific to John, that John kind of settles on, is Jesus, while they're eating, he washes the disciples' feet. And what's interesting about that is, this was something they did commonly in their culture at the time, because wearing sandals, walking on these dusty roads, their feet would be super dirty. So usually when they enter the house of a wealthy person or someone's house, a slave or a servant would wash the feet of the guests. It was something for a lowly person to do for a person that's probably more important than them. And Jesus, the King of the world, he, the one who's supposed to be on top, the one who everyone else is supposed to serve, he stops, gets down, and he serves the disciples that are sitting there. And Peter's offended by this. He's like, "No, God, Jesus, I'm supposed to serve you. What are you doing? I'm not going to let you wash my feet." And Jesus says, "Unless you let me wash your feet, if I do not wash you, you have no share with me." And what he's saying there is, if you do not accept the sacrifice that I make for you, then you will have no share with me in my kingdom. You see, no, we don't want Jesus. We don't want to picture Jesus on the cross. We didn't want Jesus to go to the cross. But if we don't accept that gift that he's given us, him putting himself lower than he should be, lower than everyone else to lift us up, if we don't accept that, we'll never get to heaven. And then Peter says, "Lord, not only my feet only, but also my hands and my head." He says, "Give it all to me. I want all of that. I want to have every part of you. And if you serving me is what it takes, then please, Lord, I just want to have you. I want to have your presence." And then Jesus says something crazy. He says, in verse 14, "If I, then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet." And that's a high calling. He says, "A servant is not greater than his master. I've given you an example. Now go and do as I have done." And if Jesus, the highest of high, washes the disciples' feet, then how much more should we be washing the feet of those that maybe we don't like to serve, we don't feel like serving as much. Jesus, the high washed the low of lows feet. So now we're being lowly. He says, be an example. The master is greater than the servant. So now us being servants of God, we need to go. We need to serve people. Put ourselves under those. Humble ourselves. Make other people more costly than our lives. I was in class the other day, and a professor said we only care about ourselves. We seek our own needs and desires before everyone else. And then he goes, but that's okay. That's okay to have it this way. It's only natural to seek out for ourselves over people. But Jesus says, no, put yourselves under people. It's not a good thing. It's not just only natural. It shouldn't be accepted. What we should do is put ourselves under those, to humble ourselves and lift others up. And that's what he's showing us here, to truly love people, right? Jesus truly loved us, and that's why he went to the cross for us. And Jesus says this amazing thing at the end of the chapter in verse 34, "A new commandment I give to you." When Jesus gives a commandment, we listen. And he says that you love one another, just as I have loved you. And that's one of the highest callings, right? To love one another as Jesus loved us. You are also to love one another. "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." And love here is proof of discipleship of Jesus. It's proof that we follow Jesus. And I was talking to a guy at school the other day about the Bible, and he was an atheist, and he was so good at listening to my conversation and what I had to say. I felt like he loved me, right? And I walked away from that conversation, was like, man, that guy was loving. But he was an atheist. And for me to be outloved by an atheist, it shows something wrong, right? We have the Holy Spirit in our heart. We need to be loving to an extent, this supernatural kind of love, that we show people that we are disciples of Jesus. We get low so we can lift others up. We wash the feet of those who might be ready to betray us, just as Jesus washed washed Judas's feet, right? He washed all of the disciples' feet. That includes the one that was about to betray him. He served the one that was his enemy. Like we serve, we love our enemies, we love because Jesus loved us first. Go with that knowing today and asking Jesus to help you. Give us supernatural strength to love. Give us supernatural power to love so people can see that we're the Lord's disciples because we are loving them. Thank you for joining me today. I hope to see you tomorrow in the Bible reading plan. Bye.